So we're up to Chapter 4. What have we done so far? Chapter 1. That was all about the environment that accounting operates in, the playing field, if you want. The importance of capital allocation and the role that financial statements play in that. Basically, no confidence in the financial statements will lead to a lot less investment. We talked also in Chapter 1 about the regulatory bodies and the standard setters. This is all part of what you need to know to go into the profession of accounting, just to have sort of the general lay of the land. Chapter 2, we get into the rules of the game, the conceptual framework. This is all the basic principles, assumptions, objectives, all of sort of the rules you need to do accounting. Chapter 3 we just finished. That's the whole accounting information system. It's like AC 101, 102 in one chapter. Hopefully for most of you it was mostly review. But it's really the detailed procedures on how to play the game of accounting. Okay, so now in Chapter 4 we're starting on the first of two chapters that talks about, well, how do we report all this information? We're getting into a lot more detail on the income statement in Chapter 4 and then the balance sheet in Chapter 5. Also the statement of cash flows, or as I refer to it in AC 102, the dreaded statement of cash flows. Okay, Chapter 6 is going to be kind of a technical chapter just on the time value of money. It's generally not everybody's favorite chapter, but it's a few basic principles that everybody needs to know. And then we wrap up with a big chapter on revenue recognition. So we're, in terms of what you're doing here, AC 101, you really get into the big concepts of accounting. AC 102, a little more detail. Now, in 201, 202, we're just getting into a lot more detail on all the topics that you have done before. So, you're, that's kind of where we're at. And then, as far as the what's in Chapter 4, first part of the chapter, usefulness and format of the statement, the limitations and quality of earnings. This should be review for most students, but as I say, we get into a lot more detail, so you have to devote the time to the chapter. We talk about the format. You are familiar with the single-step statement and a multi-step statement, probably not so much the condensed statement. So we'll get into that a little bit. The rest of the chapter adds a lot more complexity. We deal with how to report all the what they call irregular items. These would be our unusual gains and losses, discontinued operations, various changes in principles and estimates. And then they talk about intra-period tax allocation. And then with the one thing that's really new here is that on the income statements, earnings per share must be disclosed on the face of the income statement. So we have to learn how to calculate that and report it. We also get into the retained earnings statement and comprehensive income. So Chapter 4, do the homework. It will need a lot of practice. You're not going to be able to just say, oh, I'll just do that on the exam. You really have to work through the problems on this. So anyway, next we'll get into the actual income statement.